Welcome to episode 10. Today, my guest is Trey Bruffey. He is an amazing coach, functional health coach. He trains clients. He is all about nutrition, being healthier, and really optimizing your daily habits to make your life the best life you can have. What are we talking about today? Well, we dig in to nutrition around training, that pre, intra, and post training nutrition that's going to get you the results that you want. Whether you are a student athlete, whether you are mom or dad working out at home or at the local gym, or whether you are looking to hit the stage or hit the court professionally. Come on in. Let's chat all about nutrition pre, post, and intra workout. So this is episode 10. Super excited that you're here, Trey, because
Awesome.
it's been a while. So
Yeah.
let's talk about training. Let's talk about specifics of training, like nutrition around training, because you have a home gym where you train a lot of people. You're super busy. So I've talked to you before, but bring me up to speed. Who is in your gym right now that you're training? What types of people do you train right now?
So mainly in person, it's a lot of like lifestyle. So it's people that just want to lose fat, build muscle.
Mhm.
I'll have some teenagers every now and then, but teenagers are always like finicky. They will like change their goals based on the day.
So when they come
Um,
to you, what is usually their goal?
Usually put on muscle, but then when they realize how hard it is to build muscle, they're pretty quick to not want to do it. Um,
Gotcha.
that's just how it is. But I would say like my longest term people are people who just want to lose fat,
Hmm.
people that want to be in better shape. Um, I have a few that they're more like functional clients from the sense of not functional health, like what we think about like gut health,
Hmm.
but functional as in their joints do not function at all.
Sure.
That's not something I like to take on, or I didn't used to like to take on, but it is something new that I've been doing.
Hmm.
And my wife helps with that too, so she gets some of that stuff as well. So it's
And
usually
she's a
lifestyle.
PT, right?
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
She came home. She left her job back in March, so she works full time with me now.
Nice.
So that's
So
our main thing.
you guys tag team those people with the joint things, or?
She has her own clients, and then if I ever have questions, she will help me because I'll be the first to admit, like, um, I'm very, I don't want to say bro with my training,
Mhm.
but I cannot, I'm not the guy that's going to say, okay, you're internally rotated, externally rotated, and all this stuff and anatomical stuff.
Yeah.
I very much look at you, I think logically. And there's a lot of stuff that I will rig up that science is not going to make any sense, but it works. It's very simple. So when I need some of that more like extensive stuff that I won't know, I'll refer to her or my client Jason Colley. Um, he helps me with a lot of that too. So I'll do assessments. Me and him get on call, go through it, and then we tag team it as well. So I usually use one of them,
Nice.
just because like the background is like lifestyle, people that don't have injuries, um, bodybuilders, that type of stuff. But the people I'm getting, like two of them, like one of them has nerve damage and like he can't move his arm unless his hand is touching it and then he can move it. Yeah. So a lot of it is a lot of touching and hands on to get him in those positions. Then we work it out. And then the other one that I help, uh, both shoulders are engulfed in arthritis and need shoulder replacements. And what we're trying to do is work around that so he doesn't get a shoulder replacement.
Hmm.
And then the other one's my father-in-law. He's got like knee and shoulder issues. So
Sure.
that's kind of like what I do. And then wife and Jason obviously help if
Sure.
we need
Gotcha.
it. Yeah.
So the people that come to you that you're training, you
Mhm.
also obviously you do online coaching,
Yep.
nutrition, functional
Mhm.
health, all of that. So you have this broad spectrum of people that you are working with on nutrition, losing fat, being
Yep.
healthier. And so when it comes to pre, post, and intra nutrition, do you feel like there's a big difference depending on who's coming to you and what they need? Or do you kind of have, this is kind of the basics, this is what we're going to do? Because is it complicated or is it simple?
I think it depends.
Mhm.
That's always the magic answer. It's always it depends. So it depends on a few things, like how's their digestion, how early in the day or late in the day are they training, what has the food looked like before the pre-workout meal, what is their goals, what style of diet do I have, if they're enhanced, are they using insulin, are they not using insulin, are we using like GDAs or insulin mimetics, that type of thing. So it really does depend on them. And it just also depends on like what are they open to doing. So like I'll just give you like a few examples. So
Yeah.
like if you use like I'll give you like a few different ones, but if you use like a lifestyle client, they haven't tracked anything at all. They don't know anything about nutrition. They don't even know like to drink water. Um, I always put them on nutrition that's habit based. So they're not weighing anything. There's
Mhm.
not set meals. I just say, hey, these meals, protein, fat, veggie. Here's all the choices. I'll divide it between least, semi, and most processed. Tell them to stick with least, use semi and most as needed.
Mhm.
Send me a breakdown of your meals and photos each day. And we go from there. And then I'm just usually like, hey, if you're going to work out, um, just pre training, have a scoop of whey protein, have a tablespoon of honey, maybe a
Okay.
handful of nuts, go in your workout, post training, uh, do another half scoop or a scoop of protein, a little bit of honey, a little bit of glucose, maybe some fruit in there,
Do you
and that's
talk to
it.
them about specifics around timing for that for them?
I always tell everyone if they can, no sooner than 30 minutes, um, but ideally 60 to 90 minutes. And then if
Mhm.
you're eating a lot of food, let's say they're more experienced trying to put on muscle and they're tracking everything to the T,
Mhm.
um, they might space it out. So like I have some guys that they'll space it 2.5 hours out because if we're like, so that's like lifestyle, you've never tracked anything. So I'm just like, get a little bit of protein, get a little bit of fructose and glucose in there, get a little bit of fats in there, maybe intra workout, have some essential amino acids. Um, Maybe if they're more serious, I might do like a mix of like pomegranate juice and like Gatorade. So
Mhm.
Gatorade gives you some dextrose, pomegranate juice can give you some more fructose base. It also help with blood flow as well. So in theory, it could help with the pump.
Mhm.
Um, and that might be them. But like, let's say we go to like Ben, like the competitor I help right now, when we were in his deep off season, even now, we pushed as much carbs pre, intra, post as humanly possible. And I know like research and stuff kind of like it backs it, but also poo poos on it as well. So like I know a lot of people have kind of like ditched the nutrient timing stuff as much.
Mhm.
I still firmly believe it from an experience standpoint that if you nail nutrient timing, you can maximize as much food as possible in that window
Sure.
and not spread it out. I totally get from like a education science based standpoint, like food's going to compound. Like, is it really going to make a difference if you're on 600 grams of carbs to put it all pre intro post versus spreading out through the day? Maybe not. But from my belief and like experience, I firmly do think you can still maximize that. So, like for him, we would put like 150 carbs pre training. He would
Mhm.
space that about 90 to 2 hours out. Then he would have his intro. That'd be like 100, 125 grams of carbs. He'd do that 15 to 20 minutes, start drinking at 15 and 20 minutes before his workout.
Sure.
He would usually take like someone could hypothetically take a shot of insulin during that time,
Mhm.
finish that halfway through his workout. Because that intra workout, let's say it's like a push day where he's doing like chest, shoulders, triceps. If someone finishes that halfway through their workout, and so let's say they finish chest, technically that's the post workout meal for chest in theory. So that's why I do think it's important to fuel that intra workout window.
Sure.
Um, and then you're also what you're trying to do is refill that hole that you're digging while you're working out or
Mhm.
training or whatever. And
Mhm.
then we'll put the rest of his stuff post training. And then the rest of his day or their day would be just protein, fat, veggie, and then fruit.
So, but when you do something like that,
Yeah.
though, you pay close attention to his biofeedback in that time frame too, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I have athletes or even lifestyle clients who have this belief: I'm gonna slam protein shake, whatever, within an hour. But then, like one girl in particular, I'm thinking of her physically, she's nauseous, and if she tries to eat, it's going to be worse. Like she can't do that. And so for me, I'm always like, we have to look at your digestion. We have to look at what your body's telling us first.
Yep.
So you found that this works for him, and you track all of that very well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we space it on them. So like with him, it's very easy digesting stuff, but when he finishes that intra, he's not eating his post-training meal maybe for like 2 hours after the workout.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very specifically paced and we adjust it on them. And I have some that I have to space out their food just because their ability to digest some of that food, it just doesn't work. And that's where food source comes into play, or like the intra workout. That's where maybe like someone needs a mix of fast digesting carbs and a little bit slower and a mix of things versus some might need very, very fast only and they can't do any of the slow. Then you get into like the artificial sweetener and the dyes and stuff, how they respond to that. So it really is specific to them, um, and what they're kind of telling me. It's never like a cookie cutter thing. But I would say if across the board for most people, I try to at least do something pre, intro, post. I just space it and adjust what they're doing based off of what they tell me, what they're comfortable with.
So if you have someone who struggles with, like, okay, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Lifestyle client, female, has always trained fasted,
Yeah.
doesn't do anything during, struggles after. How would you approach that? If, say, she
How,
comes in, because here's what she's going to want. You know what she's going to want. I want to be able to see my muscles,
right.
right? So what would you do for that?
How, when they get up, how close to waking up are they working out? Like with it and how long?
Most honestly, I would say most people that I run into, females who are fasted and they're doing it in the morning, it's within a half hour they start.
Half hour.
Yeah.
So what I always do is I backload their carbs the night before. So I'll go heavy carbs, heavy fat, heavy fiber,
Mm-hmm.
a shit ton of fructose, like a shit ton. Um, there's still glucose in there. And then the morning of, what I'll do is I'll just take a little bit of whey isolate, or like a goat's whey, depending on what they can digest.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like a half a scoop. Have them mix in some MCT oil, and that's gonna
Mm-hmm.
digest really fast. At least they're getting some fats in there.
Talk
Um,
about, wait a minute. So the can't even say it. Say it again.
MCT
MCT oil.
oil. Yep.
So is the MCT oil, does that assist with digestion? What is the deal? What's that?
So if you think about like coconut oil, that's primarily 60% of that's MCT, so medium chain triglycerides.
Gotcha.
The problem is if you think about like coconut oil, it hardens up if you were to mix it into something cold, so you can't
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of people don't like the taste of coconut. I think the taste of coconut oil is disgusting. I
Me
can't
too.
do
Yeah.
it. But I also, it digests really, really fast. There's multifaceted benefits from the sense of like immune health,
Mm-hmm.
antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, um, lipids. Um, so with MCT oil, you're getting the straight source at that point. It's 100% caprylic. Well, depending on the type you use, I always use like the organic sports research one
Okay.
because with that, it's not just caprylic acid. You get capric acid, caprylic acid, and lauric acid. It's like what you would find in like lauricidin, some like monolaurin. So
Yep.
it's a little bit more multifaceted there, but
Okay.
it's unflavored. It stays liquid no matter how cold it gets. Digests
Mm.
really, really fast. And in theory, the bro science that everybody says is it burns like a carb. My thing is it's just going to slow down digesting a little bit in
Sure.
general, where we can kind of like prevent that blood glucose from spiking and then crashing down right away
Right.
because they're going to be using like intra workout stuff. So like in that first meal, if it's upon waking, I'll backload the night before. I will do a little bit of whey isolate or goat's whey. I'll have them mix in the MCT oil, and then I'll have them take 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey.
Mm.
Honey's gonna give them some fructose. It's gonna fill liver glycogen. It's gonna help maintain. I feel like it does a better job maintaining blood glucose levels as well.
Sure.
Um, and then I'll usually use a Manuka honey, just more multifaceted than like a organic or a regular one. If they have allergies, I might do like a local organic just so they get that pollen from within their area.
Sure.
And then they'll start sipping their intra at the same time, which will have some
Oh,
essential amino acids, have some
okay.
creatine in there.
Yeah.
Um, they'll have a mix of carbs, or it might not have a mix of carbs. It might just have like pomegranate juice or grape juice. It just depends on what they'll do. So I'll
Mhm.
do enough to stoke protein synthesis, enough to get some fats in there to help maintain blood glucose levels, get the benefits of the fats um, in general. Some of the fructose in there via the honey, some fructose via the fruit juices if we're using it, and then I'll pick a carb of choice based off a budget or what I think they can do. So maybe it's just Gatorade, maybe it's a mix of like Gatorade with Carbolin, um, or if there's someone that maybe has like yeast or fungal type stuff, I might go just straight cyclic dextrin because it's
Mhm.
going to digest so fast and doesn't feed yeast or fungus. So like that's kind of how I always approach it for people that train fasted. It
Right.
just gives them something to drink. They might take in some electrolytes during that period as well. Make
Sure.
sure they're hydrated,
Yeah.
and then we'll get going from there.
Yeah. It sounds like if we're going to kind of drill down into making it super simple in terms of
Mhm.
what you're actually doing is you're helping them to not crash in the middle of their training session
Yeah,
because it is fasted, because it's the
yeah,
morning.
yeah,
Because I think that's a big deal for a lot of people is all of a sudden, you're training and you're fasted and everyone's like, you hear it all the time. Oh, you should do training faster. You get up in the morning, do it, especially if you want to lose fat and whatever. And then what happens is what I find is people can do that for a few days, maybe a week, whatever, but then they find that it's so big of a struggle and they're just drained and wiped out by the time they're
yeah.
done and they're not getting the benefit of the training.
Yeah. It's for
Yeah.
that. It's for like performance in the gym and just
Hmm.
everything in general. And I'm not like against fasting. Like at least fasting training, I think that's dumb. I think it's very like idiotic to do that type of stuff. Like no offense. Um, but in my opinion, if you also think about fasting, what does fasting do? Fasting does raise cortisol.
Yeah.
So why would it make any sense that you're already fasted, then you're doing something that raises cortisol and puts you in fight or flight, more
Yeah.
sympathetically dominant? It just doesn't make any logical sense to
Right.
be like, okay, I'm fasted. I'm going to do something else that's very stimulating. And then I'm going to go try to cram a bunch of food post training. You're going to be very sympathetically dominant and you're not going to digest the food properly in the first
Yeah.
place.
And
So that's how why I believe in that.
yeah.
And I think it really comes back to just meeting them where they're at. But I do find a little bit of whey isolate, a little bit of MCT oil, some honey. That's a good thing that I think most people can do. It's going to digest really easy.
Hmm.
And then do the intra workout. For some, maybe it's just essential amino acids, a little bit of juice, or maybe it's just essential amino acids
Sure.
and creatine. And then we'll go a little bit heavier with their post training meal.
So let's think about this in terms of just straight up lifestyle client who trains, okay, but they're fine, whatever. However, let's bring it into like it's summertime now.
Yeah.
So we get these lifestyle clients who are now like weekend warriors, or it's 90 degrees outside and they're playing with their grandkids, or they're out at the, throwing the ball around with their kid or whatever for 3 hours, whatever it happens to be. And then they come home and they're not hungry, but they have a goal, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking it particularly women who are
Right.
carting these kids all over the place and it's 90 degrees with 50% humidity, which by the way, I don't have anymore because I live in Wyoming and the
Right.
humidity is like 14%, which
Yeah.
is why my curls are so nice. But anyway, um, but I'm trying to feed them up, right? We're trying to feed them up because they've eaten
Yeah.
chronically low for so long. And they get in the house and they're like, I'm not hungry, right? Because they're sympathetic because they're in the heat and they're running around and all that. So is that a situation where you could also use what you've just talked about to help kind of help them get the nourishment that they need even when they're in that kind of fight or flight?
So there's a few different ways. One, like, yes, I would do something just very like easy digesting is something that they can just do. And there's a million ways to do that. But I think that's a good one that they can do that's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the biggest thing is getting them in that state of like rest and digest. And it might just simply say, hey, sit down, take a few breaths, pick your poison. It just depends. That's
Crank the
one
air
thing.
conditioning.
Yeah. Crank the AC, put a cold towel on your face. Like
Mhm.
something I might have people do is drink a cold glass of water, put a pinch of salt, a little bit of lime juice. At least you're getting water, you're getting some salt, you're getting some potassium.
Mhm.
Um, getting some iodine in there. If they use something like no salt as like potassium chloride, they're getting some chloride in there. So like I might have them do that. But the other thing I might have do, and I do this with a lot of people that are um that maybe don't have the best hunger, maybe post training, is I actually like usually we're always saying, hey, get your protein in first. That's the most important thing. Get your fats in, then get your carbs last. I actually have people start with the carbs first, and it's been so long since I've touched on this. Jesus, probably like 6 years ago.
Here I am. I'm
I
here
can't
for you.
remember the I can't remember the exact science behind it, but something about that does stoke appetite.
I was
And that
just
was
thinking
a
that.
that's like a little habit that or a little trick I always use with a lot of my competitors or people putting on muscle that had reached the point where I'm eating a ton of food and even post training, I'm not hungry.
Yep.
And that I would actually use that. And it always worked very, very well. And I can't remember for the life of me why um why it is. It's been so long to touch on it, but that was something Joe Bentley taught me. Geez, 28 2018, however long ago. That's 7 years, 6 years ago, 6 or 7. But that's something I will do. And so if you're using like a gal that's come in from playing the kids, it's super hot. What am I going to give her that would probably should be able to eat, but also is going to give us a little bit more benefits? I'm probably going to, if she's open to fruit, I'm probably going to say, hey, have some really cold watermelon.
Sure.
One, it's mainly water. She's going to get some hydration in there. Um, Two, it's cold. It's really easy to eat if you like watermelon. It's pretty easy on the stomach depending on like who the person is.
Hmm.
Um, but also these gals probably are wanting to lose body fat at the same time.
Sure.
It's also very low calorie and filling. So it's kind of like a way you kind of kill multiple birds with one stone. So I do find like in that scenario, I would give them something really, really cold, like a fruit,
Hmm.
and go from there. I know some I'll tell them to do it is they'll do like frozen grapes, but it's almost like candy and they can just eat that
Oh,
all day
yeah.
long. And then they're cooling off as well. So like that's
Sure.
like a scenario with that client. You could do that, get their appetite going a little bit.
Yep.
Then you could add in a little bit of food if it allows it. Or maybe for them, it's simply adding in a little bit of fruit, maybe hammer a protein shake and a handful of nuts, and maybe that's
And you're
it.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's a good way. You get some hydration, it cools them down. They're getting some antioxidants, some nutrients, that type
Yeah.
of thing, and then you just go from there.
So I'm just gonna guess that you are not in the camp of fruit makes you fat. Are you not? You're not that.
No, if you were to see my nutrition, I'm notoriously known for doing. I go overboard on the fruit. So
I do too.
most of my people do like 200 to 300 grams, like 5 times a day of fruit. So if
Yeah.
you think about that, say it's five and it's 300 grams. That's 1,500 grams of fruit. I don't even know how many freaking ounces that is, but
Yeah.
1,500 divided by 28. It's 53 ounces of fruit, if my math is right. Yeah, I think my math is right there, divided by 28. Um, and I firmly believe it doesn't make you fat. With that said, if you're very insulin resistant, then obviously we don't want to be
Yep. Hammering
flooding
on the
it
fruit.
full of
Yeah.
that. But I've never felt that way. I know like a lot of people think like you can't lose fat while you're eating fruit. You can't contest prep with fruit. Well, I have a guy getting on stage in 8 days, best shape his entire life. He's taking a third of the drugs he's using. He's doing 20 minutes of cardio a day, if that. He's eating 4,000 calories a day compared to less than 2,000 last year, an hour of cardio. No fat burners at this point, or it took very little. And he's eating so much damn fruit and fruit juices the entire prep.
Sure.
And that's it. He's also the healthiest he's ever been. His digestion's the best it's ever been. He doesn't
Right.
have any of the skin reactions he used to have either.
Isn't that
So,
interesting?
yeah,
So
it's crazy.
people will believe whatever, but it's like, is it healthy? Let's run it through that filter first, right? Is that smart? I just heard, speaking of fruit, one of my clients just told me today that she had been It doesn't matter what company she was talking to, doesn't matter. And she goes, "Can you tell me if this is true? They used to tell everybody that you cannot, absolutely cannot eat fruit past 6 p.m. no matter what." And I was like, that's unfortunate that they were
Right.
telling me. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's just
yeah.
kind of like the same people that think you need flushes with every single thing. You need to do like 100,000 hour fasting to fix a GI issue. It's
Yeah.
it's stupid. Like there's so many different ways to skin a cat that I don't give that. It's the same thing when people say like I had a gal, she's a fertility client. She'd done a consult with a coach and said you have to eat right when you wake up if you want to get pregnant. You have to eat these foods. You have to be done eating by this time and go to bed by this time. If you don't sleep exactly this much, you're not going to get pregnant.
Oh my
And like
God.
if you
How
use
long
that
was she with
scenario,
him?
huh?
How long was she with him?
It was a girl, a
Oh,
female coach, but she only did a consult and it scared her away.
oh,
And then
good.
she
Okay.
came and joined me instead. But
Good.
like with that, like if you're thinking fertility, great. You just stress out that client, and stress is usually what you got to work on with fertility people in the first
Worst
place.
thing. Yep.
And so you didn't even fix it. So I think it's important to understand like the one rule when it comes to training, nutrition, functional health, anything is there is no rules.
Yeah.
The one rule is treat the client, don't treat what everyone else is saying and treat the test or anything like that. It's think about the client.
Think about the person in front of you. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And I think to go along with that, and then we'll kind of close this out because I know, I mean, just it's just a short topic. It's a great one,
Yeah.
is to remember that every person is different, right?
Mhm.
And it has to fit for you. It can't just be something that everyone else does. And even if it might work, if it's stressing you out like crazy, it's not working.
Yep.
It's not working. So, like, let's take a little bit of stress off of people and go, let's simplify this and pay attention to how we're feeling and work from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
100%.
so last thoughts on pre-post intra training. Is it a thing for everyone? Is it a thing for some people? Is it a thing for what is it? So, just kind of wrap this up in a nice little bow for us.
I think it's important to have something before you work out. Do I think everyone needs something during? No. Do I think someone needs everything something after? Yes, but the timing, the types, and that type of thing, it just depends on the style and what they can do.
Mhm.
Um, and then ultimately it comes back to like what they be consistent with, what doesn't stress them out, what can they digest.
Mhm.
That's the most important thing. I would say there's no like set rules, and that's something that's taken me years to reframe my thoughts on. I still change my thoughts on a lot of things, but I do think like we do know for a fact you probably need to do something before, you probably need to do something after. If you're someone that's eating a lot of food and you're someone that's like an enhanced athlete that's going to implement insulin, it's probably not a bad idea to do some intra. Or if you've maximized your food, intra is a really good place to put food and get those carbs and get protein and stuff like that. So that's what my personal belief is. And I find it just works well. But you just got to find what works for you, or your coach or trainer needs to find what can you do, what can you digest, what's enjoyable. And I can tell you out of every client, they all do something vastly different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's how it is. You just gotta find it comes trial and error. That's how it is. You just can they do it? Yes. Can they not do it? No. Do they need swaps? So I have a lot of lifestyle clients, they have multiple swaps of what they can do pre and post.
Just to be flexible, right? Not
It
be
just
so,
has to be. Yeah.
yeah.
And for them, it just really depends. Like I might give them a nutrition. I just say, hey, whatever time you train, just have any of these meals. Go in the order. You have 4 meals or 3 meals and a snack. Whatever time you train, just have that be about an hour to 2 hours after this meal,
Hmm.
and try to make sure you have something an hour, 2 hours after. Don't worry about it because like these are people that are just wanting to lose weight and feel better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like there is some merit to calories in, calories out with it being healthy foods.
Sure.
And when it comes to losing body fat and stuff like that, I really think it's not as important of what they're having before and after, as long as they can do it, as long as it's not causing like negative side effects where they feel bad, that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more about the accumulation of everything throughout the day and throughout the week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Hey, Trey, thank you so much. I so appreciate having you on here
Of
today.
course.
I know you're a super busy guy. So I'm going to put all your information in, of course, the show notes. But
Sweet.
thanks for doing this quick hitter on pre, post, and intra workouts. I know it's a topic a lot of people are confused about, and there's a lot of weird information out there. So we just want
Yeah.
to make sure we clarify for people. So
Yeah.
thank you so
Sweet.
much.
Of course. Thank you.